Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to this weekly Sadaqayon program organized by Quantum Meditation Society London, where every week we talk about something relevant to our lives. Today we are talking about something that hardly ever serves any purpose. Instead, it leaves us with a lot of stress and anxiety. It takes up a lot of our time. Um, it leaves us feeling strangely depleted, maybe even physically sick, but still, we find it very, very difficult to resist. And that is getting into pointless arguments. Now, human beings have got into arguments for as long as I know, but with the arrival of the online space and the opportunity to say something to someone that we don't know is not in front of us, this has taken a wholly different dimension. Many of us cannot resist getting into arguments online, and it only not only leaves those of us involved in it uh, feeling feeling worse with our mental health being affected, uh, and it doesn't affect not only those who we are targeting, it is having an effect on our entire ambience that all of us exist in today's world. So I wanted to start with reading a little bit about something I found on an online platform that is quite popular. So let me just this is someone, an anonymous user who is talking in a forum where people talk about engaging less on the internet, about his own helplessness uh, in the face of his urge to engage in online arguments. So he or she is saying, last Tuesday, I deleted my other name of the platform accounts out of shame and disappointment that I had spent 8+ hours per day of the prior 3 days arguing with people on that platform. I have always had an issue with arguing online, feeling a need to reinforce and defend my own opinions against those of unknown strangers, and to correct comments or posts that I find fault with or disagree with. I had gone several weeks only scrolling on the platform and not engaging with comments. I tried to disconnect myself because I knew arguing with people online was a waste of time and toxic to my own mentality. So he tried uh, several weeks not to argue, just to scroll, but then he had a relapse. And then he's talking about the relapse. It was like a manic state where I was engaged in a dozen different ongoing arguments on the name of this platform, and was letting my real life suffer because I wanted nothing more than to continue replying to all these name of the platform comments. Anyway, then I found the place where people talk about, discuss their willingness or their desire to decrease their engagement online, and resolve that I need to learn how to heavily reduce and eventually quit this platform. I've been holding in there the past week. I engage in no online arguments and I've only browsed outside of this one when I needed to look something up. I'm gearing up for week 2 of my journey, which I will be using to try and focus on being more productive. So this is somebody who is saying, hold me accountable. I'm here. I have been off online arguing for a week. I'm starting my second week. Help me because I'm helpless. I understand that this is really bad for me. It's served no purpose. It wastes all my time, but I just can't seem to resist. Now, other people are saying, when they, in response to his comment, I'm in the same boat now. I have like 12 different comment threads arguing with people, and I come away from each session feeling physically ill. So, this is very common for a section of our society, wherever you live in the world, in today's world, where you have certain opinions. It could be political opinions, religious opinions, personal opinions. You have views and opinions which you may hold dearly and which you may think, if you could spread, would really help the world. And what you are doing is you are getting into arguments with people who do not hold your views online. Now, the question to ask this, even leaving aside all the adverse effect on the mental health of the person who is engaging in these arguments, does arguing with someone ever help change their minds? So you believe you have some view that is really great for the world, but if you get into argument with someone, does that really help them change their mind? So here is somebody who in the same forum is writing about that. I have maybe changed one person's mind through argument in 23 years of wasting time arguing on the internet. Or maybe I'm imagining it. So this person, he is like 23, for 23 years, he is like argued with people on the internet, and he thinks that he has probably changed one person's mind. Now, here's somebody from the sort of the other side of things. He is somebody who has actually changed his mind and pay attention to what he wrote or she wrote. As someone who did actually change their mind, and then he's explaining, I was this until this time and then gradually became this. So he changed his political opinion. Had it not been for particular people on the internet, and he's referring to people who belong to, who have the opinion that he has changed to. So, uh, people on the internet who were excessively mean spirited, I might have changed much earlier. So basically, what kept him from changing his mind earlier was because the people who were arguing with him were so mean towards him. It was meaningful, intelligent conversations with, again, people of the view that he has ultimately changed to, and their suggestions about various books, studies, articles, and documentaries that got me to change my life. So, this really shows us what arguments do. And even though a lot of us are very, very intelligent people, we don't necessarily work in a very intelligent way when it comes to getting into discussions and debates and arguments about our views. Why? Because it is human nature. All of us have an ego. And whether how strong my ego is doesn't have much to do with my intelligence level. Maybe it has done something to do with the level of my wisdom, but not necessarily my raw intelligence. So we all have an ego that doesn't necessarily become weaker with intelligence, which really, really likes to be what? Right. So the ego really loves to be right. And Eckhart Tolle, a lot of you may know him. He's the author of The Power of Now, A New Earth, very beautiful books. He writes about this very beautifully in The New Earth, Awakening to Your Life's Purpose. He says, there is nothing that strengthens the ego more than being right. Being right is identification with a mental position, a perspective, an opinion, a judgment, a story. For you to be right, of course, you need someone else to be wrong. So the ego loves to make wrong in order to be right. So even though I might be thinking that I am spreading this beautiful view in the world, what happens is that my ego creeps in, and then it becomes more about me being right and the other person being wrong. And then I start enjoying sort of, maybe if not blatant attacks, maybe doing subtle attacks, subtle jabs, subtle insults. Then I go one step further, and then I start labeling people, and then I go one step further, and I attack them personally, and so on and so forth. The ego creeps in, and the human nature is such that whenever you people feel attacked, not just physically, in any way, verbally, energetically, you are feeling like this person is blaming me, this person is attacking me, people become defensive. And if people become defensive, I can't change their views, because when they're no longer open to anything I'm saying, because they have now felt, because of my tone, because of how I've put things, because I've criticized them, because I've insulted them, however subtly, they have now pulled their defenses up, and I can't really, they are not open to being influenced anymore. They are now defensive, and what they will do is like they will attack us in their own defense. This is what you will see over and over and over again in online spaces, in if you read the comment sections of various types of posts, videos, whatever it is, this is what you will see in happening in your arguments with your people in your immediate surroundings, be it at home, be at your work, with your friends. This pattern goes on. When you get into attack, it just becomes about attack and counter attack, and any intention of getting to the truth just goes out of the window. So it is a complete waste of time. Another thing to remember in the context of arguments is that human nature is such that whatever you consider part of your identity, what you mentally have created an identity of yourself, whatever you consider part of your identity, you will be very protective towards it. Anything people says about that, you will you will become defensive about and will counterattack. So if you're a woman, if you say I'm a woman, and then and I in my mental image of myself, being a woman sort of is an important thing, an important aspect of my identity. Then anything that attacks women, I will feel without really sort of looking at the the value of the attack or value of an argument, I will just automatically feel the urge to defend. Uh, something say very real in my case, say I identify as meditator, right? So if I see people attacking the practice of meditation or meditators, right? If I'm not very mindful, then I will feel this automatic urge to be defensive, to challenge their views. Because why? Because this meditator thing is maybe a very strong part of my identity. So, this is something we need to remember when we are talking to anyone, that to you it may feel like, oh, you're just saying something that is just making an observation, and you might think that, oh, you're being very impartial, but for the other person it might be something more important than just a casual subject, a casual observation. This might be something that is very important to their identity. This might be something that is very important to their entire life narrative, right? We all have our narratives in our head of how that gives meaning to our own lives, to the world around us. And we can't really try to change, one string in that tapestry of narrative without affecting all the other things, all the weaving around it. So, because of that, too, what's to you may just seem like an isolated subject is actually not that. It's a part of a whole tapestry of narrative in someone's mind, and because of that, it's very hard to change. It's almost pointless, especially if it's been presented and perceived as an attack, to try to do so. So, because of that, wise people have always said that use your intelligence to avoid arguments rather than win them. On the internet, you will see people sort of cheering on people from their side, saying so and so eviscerate so and so dog walk so and so. But that eviscerating or that dog walking will only cheer the people who are already on your side, but it will antagonize the people who are on the other side even more, and it will make them even more defensive. So because of that, it's better not to waste your time and harm your mental health by engaging in arguments, especially arguments online. Uh, as we were just saying, that people who um, other people say were wise, like Confucius, say like if you're smart, if you're intelligent, use your intelligence to avoid arguments, get out of arguments rather than win them. And I'll give you an example of how Bernard Shaw did that. This was like Bernard Shaw. He the famous playwright, British playwright. This was when his play Arms and the Man was first being staged in London. So to his surprise, his play was a big success, and people were applauding. The audience were applauding enthusiastically, and then they called him on stage, and he went to um, just receive the applause. And then there he saw, amongst all these people applauding, one person who was hooting. So, one person who obviously didn't like his play. So, instead of getting into an argument with this person, what he said was, say, I quite agree with my friend in the gallery, but what are two against so many? So he just diffused the situation with a witty comment. When somebody says something like that, there's nothing you can do but laugh, right? So that's how you stay out of arguments. And again, every religion has warned us against getting into arguments. We talked about Confucius. Here's a verse from the Dhammapada where they say, don't speak harshly to anyone. What you say will be said back to you. Hostile speech is painful and you will meet with retaliation. Another thing is that there's a very, very beautiful hadith which was reported by Abu Huraira, which says that the Prophet says, this is so beautiful. Verily, the servant does not entirely have faith until he abandons lying, even while joking, and he abandons arguing, even if he is truthful. So, again, what you are saying may be true. You may have come upon that view, that opinion, after a lot of thinking, after gaining a lot of knowledge, and your opinion may be right, it may be what you're saying may be fact, but if you are presenting it as an argument, it's you are not doing that fact any service. So, what to do? Just be mindful of that. Like, it's in the online space, it's just save your time and energy, and you, by refraining from commenting, attacking, getting into arguments in the online space, do something productive with that time. If you want to, you can talk about the things you love with using social media, but don't get into attacks. Number two is, at home with your close relationships, sometimes you will have to discuss things, but some rules we follow is never discuss it, things when you are upset. And if you have to say something, wait until you are calm and then say it without any blame. So if your husband is late, for example, instead of going like, you're always late, so on and so forth, say things about what you want and how you feel. So if you say, if you come home late, I feel it very difficult to balance all these other things, balance cooking the dinner with looking after my child and so on and so forth. And say that, or say that, I'd be really happy, it would be really good for me if you could come a little earlier. So instead of the blame, you're now shifting to A, being vulnerable, speaking about your feelings, and B, directly communicating your wish. Uh, and then uh, and then the third point is like, never ever ever say things when you're upset, when the other person is upset, in within intimate relationships where you want to resolve things, because you can't cut off, you can't detach from these people. Listen when they're upset. Don't go into counterattacks, because that will just result in people getting upset and then attack and counterattack, where you're listing each other's shortcomings, and then you will lose control, and one of you might just end up saying something that the other one won't be able to move beyond, right? That's how relationships become bitter. That's how people sort of become more and more distant from one another, right? So this is a rule that in quantum we try to follow. Is like, if your partner is upset, let them be upset. Listen. When they're calm, and they do become calm the next day or 2 day before, then you can then you say your part, and then even if you get upset, then if they're calm, it wouldn't get so bad. And the last point is, of course, meditate, because you won't be able to do any of the things I just said unless you meditate, unless you are calm inside. Because these young men, I'm assuming a young woman who couldn't resist, they knew that what they were doing was bad for them. But when you're in the fight or flight stage, right, when you have a lot of anger inside you or stress inside you, you want to fight. It's one of the things you want to do, is like one of the things your body is getting ready to do is fight, right? But when you are meditating regularly, you then are spend more and more time in the relaxed state, in a calm state where you can think with perspective, and you are able to think through the consequences of your action right now. You're more able to choose intentionally. And then once you go deep into meditation, you realize that there is no us and them. There is no like, oh, weird, I'm such a great person, and all those people who hold views different to me, or come from a different country, or come from a different gender, or come from a different point of view, or come from a different political party, or support a different political party, are the evil people, and they're the cause of all suffering in the world. You will then, when you meditate, you won't, even if you feel that certain values are not helpful, you won't otherize them. You will experience them as connected to you. Will experience the world as us being all together. So you'll automatically be able to put things in a way where which that doesn't sever that connection, that the people can still feel connected to you, um, even when you are saying something. And that's when saying something that may be against their views. And that's when you will truly start being able to influence other people's views and opinions. And of course, the more love you feel, the more love you exude, the more people will feel that, the more you will be able to influence people. So meditate, be surrounded with wise people, and and uh, and hopefully, inshallah, you will reach a stage in life where you will be able to influence lots and lots and lots of people for the good of the world. All right, with that, let's start today's meditation. Let's do the happiness meditation today, and let's visualize that all of us are spreading goodness in the world, and people, instead of fighting and bickering and insulting each other, are learning to live together in harmony, and there is more happiness and joy in the world.